Monaro.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and I thank the member for Moreton, my great friend, for raising this motion, which brings together the issues of the problems of getting acceptance of the science by some members of the coalition, as well as dealing with the issues of the challenges and the opportunities presented to rural and regional Australia. It's interesting too that we're doing this debate in the shadow of the comments by the member for Warringah, which were treated with the derision that they deserved over their bizarre, in the same context. We know that the members had a varying array of positions on this issue over the years, but within the one speech was breaking a new record, where on the one hand denying climate change was happening, but on the other hand saying, but it's going to be good for you. Because he said, oh look, less people die in the heat than they do in the winter and the cold. When we know, of course, that climate change presents not only the issues of those who expire in extreme heat, but of course the casualties that are caused by the extreme weather conditions, and of course leaving aside the issue of the huge numbers of people who are badly affected health-wise by the emissions, the toxic emissions from fossil fuels. It's why Europe, many European countries, China, India, are all committing to getting off fossil fuel-powered vehicles by either 2025 or 2040. And the UK is shutting down its coal-fired power. Its proportion of generation of coal-fired power now is dropping to a tiny percentage of what they generate. But all I'm asking the coalition to do on this is just read its own Finkel review. I've read all 212 pages of it. It's their report. He's their chief scientist. And in there, of course, they highlighted the fact that households would save $90 a year or up to $1,000 on their electricity bills over the decade to 2030 by implementing the clean energy target. And if you look at the Finkel review, there were things that it said had to be done at the 6-month mark, 12-month mark, 3-year mark, but at the 0-month mark, that is in June, last June, it said we needed an immediate decision on a clean energy target. And that was because we needed to get the investment flowing on the capacity we need to prop up the system after 4 years of neglect and pulling the plug on the investment flow that was happening prior to that. And of course that investment flow, those benefits principally land in regional Australia. And this was another highlight in the Finkel review actually, that the benefit of distributed energy resources offered a huge opportunity for rural and regional areas in that we could save $16 billion worth of costs on transmission, but also it highlighted that there would be $400 savings per year to rural and regional businesses and domestic users of electricity. This is in the Finkel review. I'm not making this up. You wanted me to cite specifics, I'm citing them. Just read your own report. So the Finkel review highlighted the benefits from the point of view of cost for consumers, but also, of course, we know about the potential benefit economically. And if we look at the real projections of jobs for Adani, that's vastly overshadowed by the potential for rural and regional Australia in jobs in renewable energy. And if you want to see specifics on that, well, I'd point you to the Climate Institute study on job potential economic benefit for rural and regional Australia by this investment in renewable energy in particular, which they said would create something like 34,000 new jobs by 2030, but also the benefit to our farmers. And the potential from the carbon farming initiative that was part of our other policy back in 2013 was going to provide enormous benefit to farmers from activities like getting brokerage on reforestation of their properties or partial reforestation, which they could have traded in. We were setting up a regime to approve methodologies on other opportunities in boosting farm economy. But also we know from the recent ANU study that there are up to 22,000 sites that are suitable for pumped hydro across rural and regional Australia. There are at least 8,600 sites in New South Wales and 1,770 in Queensland. And these sites would provide overwhelmingly what we need to back up our renewable energy transition. We also hear the coalition talk about snowy hydro 2.0. Well, I'll keep telling the community and the public that the coalition have had nothing to do with this project. The Snowy Hydro team, under the leadership of Paul Broad, made the submission for the feasibility money in February this year, months before Malcolm Turnbull discovered it and came along and photobombed it. And that money came from ARENA, a body that the coalition tried to destroy. So they provided no money for the feasibility study. That was an independent process under ARENA, and the financing for the construction, as Snowy Hydro tell me, will be raised by them. It will not be provided by the government because the business case will stand up. This project has been on the books for 30 years of development. It would have been further advanced by now if we'd have kept the policy framework that props up that investment.